All right, here's a picture of, I'm going straight in at the deep end because I think that's what we're all here for. This is a pretty accurate model. Unfortunately, it's not, I can't rotate it around. It's one of the only screenshots I got from the engineers. But what it does show is some things that might be of interest. Doesn't show everything. This is the out hole, the chute where the compost comes out of. The green inside is some turning paddles. The blue here is the electric motor. This is a shipping container, which inside the container, there's a metal box, which is a bit like a trough, in which the paddles turn, and there's a circular bottom of the trough. This is like an exhaust tube. So there's a 24/7 fan, which is extracting and pulling fresh air into the box and extracting the, I guess, the exhaust from the respiration of the compost out. And this exhaust also pulls the air through an air filter, which we're just using mulch right now. And that can be more than mulch or less than mulch. I think we're experimenting with we haven't really found what's super effective. And to be honest, we haven't really needed to. The fact that it's extracted 24/7 means that the fresh air passing through and out is actually very low fragrance. And then it's pushed up into the air at six meters high, and it's hardly noticed. So what's coming out of the box, depending on the recipe, tends to be very low fragrance. And the extractor fan is there as much for drawing in oxygen and cooling the compost as you turn. It's as much for that as it is for odor and emissions capture. Yeah, and we believe that the mulch is a really strong method to dissolve and capture methane and other emissions, which then we can recompost when that mulch is finished. We can put it in through the compost and compost it out again. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a fully proven method with bEartha, but mulch as an air filter, as a biofilter, is widely used in many areas of what would we call it, discharge to air. So it's something I'm quite excited about, harnessing the power of mulch. And we know that when we use, as you probably all know too, that when we use a lovely fragrant mulch from the arborist, which is perhaps eucalyptus or pine, you just get an amazing smell of your compost. So with a nice smelling mulch in our exhaust or as your filter, we're essentially sharing a lot of good smells around rather than challenging ones. And yeah, we've been up and running now with bEartha about 4 months. And it was only the first 3 or 4 weeks that we had any problems with smell, which we did have some big problems with smell. And that was really to do with my enthusiasm in throwing in as much food as possible and getting excited. Yeah, I kind of laugh at how I got excited about that. I'm going to flick around and see what we've got. This is the outside of the container while she's in the engineers. So there's a door on the side where you can walk in and the electronics are in there, and there's some storage. But I'm showing this slide really because there's a table here and a loading chute. Can you see my mouse? I don't know if you can. Cool. So this is the table we use for loading the food. We sort it, we look at the food with our eyes and we pull out with our hands, and we push the food down a shredder, which is here. And after the food's shredded, it drops into the bottom of this chute and it gets lifted up with an auger up to here and drops into the container inside. And yeah, it's that piece of kit has massively reduced the amount of danger and time it took us to load bEartha 1, which we had someone perilously stood on a ladder and emptying buckets in through a moving circular container, and it was pretty treacherous. So this was a real statement towards health and safety and efficiency. And yeah, the intention is that we're doing a lot of food through here. So when it comes to loading and unloading, I see them as really important parts of the system. So efficient loading and unloading is important at this volume for sure. Let's see what we can find. So there's the top. You can see here it enters in the top through the box, and this is on site before we got the paint job and before we put the marquee up. And I just think it's a great photo to demonstrate again the outside of the machine and the space required, and again the kind of scope that we're looking at. Here's the inlet for the oxygen and the exhaust, well, the inlet, so the inlet, and that's the exhaust tube. This is the auger's driven by an electric motor, the shredder's driven by an electric motor, and so is bEartha, and she plugs in the same as a caravan. So this is a classic caravan hookup, and it's a 3-phase hookup indeed, but it is still, she just plug in with a plug. So she's very transportable, very relocatable. She's not classified as a building. I'm just going through that process now with our council, and the engineers don't see it as a building because it's more of a guard. It's more of a the shipping containers acting as a guard system rather than a building in which you would dwell or make food or sleep or store other things. So it's we slipped through that loophole quite nicely, and resource consent we're slipping through as well, with no discharge to ground and very, very limited discharge to air. Jury's still out on that, but it's because of the volumes that she's processing and the containerized system, the discharge and the resource consent is pretty straightforward and pretty easy for them, council. The storage of the volumes of compost on site are where it becomes tricky, and how that's taken care of. So I don't actually have any pictures of our storage, but that's typically a bay system like you'd see in a landscapers, where you've got bays, and that's where we stack the compost in. There's just another angle. You can see some more power outlets that we've got on the side there. Yeah, that's not useful. And there we go with a paint job. Nice picture, and this is the marquee we're using. We've got a mulch storage right next to it here. I think after 4 months now, I'd choose to move this mulch storage much closer to where we would load. Really, the closer it all is, the better. Everything's taking time at this volume. We really want to be as efficient as possible. Let me see here, the out hole. This is an original picture before we realized that there was an engineering and design problem. We've now moved the hole a lot lower, and there's access. The emptying of the compost is much more dynamic now than it was. It wasn't in the correct position. So we operate out here on the floor when we're emptying, and we stack it up here for a while, and then behind the camera person here, there's storage, and we're windrowing and got bays for storage there. We park the van in here in between this container bEartha and these blue containers. this is our yard in here. And the marquee is where we work. I'm not sure if you've seen the film or not, but there's a lot more imagery from inside the marquee when you see the film. So, but having a shelter to work in when you're processing, washing, storing, working has just been an absolute life changer for us. So yeah, it's still something I'm working on with our council regarding resource consent. Marquees that are up for over 30 days need a resource consent, and so I'm going through that process now. So hopefully we'll somehow sneak a loop throat hole there, or have to pay for a permanent marquee. But in an ideal world, that would be a shed. This marquee cost me $2,000 as opposed to $20,000 for a shed. So at this point for this model, it was worthwhile me taking a risk. Yeah, I think that this is a little video. I'm not sure if it will play, of us unloading some compost. Oh yeah, this is. I don't know if you can hear it. Sorry if it's terrible noise. But we're unloading about two cubic meters of compost in about 15 minutes. Just a little bit of shovel assisting, and then we stack it up. I'll run that again just in case you missed it, want to see a bit more. Yeah, the compost that comes out is very, very mulchy still. Our recipe is 2 parts mulch, 1 part food. And at the moment, that is not necessary. But what it does do is provide us a really safe product, which does not smell and does not create any problems in this light industrial area that we're operating in. Yeah, keeping the neighbors happy at this point is more important than volume for us. We're tweaking the recipe. We've been adding sawdust and other things to bring up the carbon and food at the same time. But yeah, what you see coming out is just 1 week old. Yeah, 1/3 of it was food, and it's incredibly well broken down. It's probably, depending on the recipe, bEartha turns the compost between 10 and 30 times in 1 week, and that's really expedites the breaking down, mixing it up, oxygenates everything. It's incredibly fast. And that turning is all scheduled on heat. So when the recipe's right, the heat spikes quicker, and bEartha turns to cool it down, and then we'll recheck the temperature, and every 5 minutes until the temperature reaches the hot temperature limit again, and then she'll turn again for the given amount of time. So we're experimenting with all the parameters at the moment. How long do we turn for? At what temperature do we turn? Depending on the season, the cold winter air is bringing the temperature down much quicker than in the summer. So we're turning for like 1 minute or 2 minutes at the moment, and it's bringing it down 10 degrees. Whereas in the summer, I was needing to turn it for 10 minutes, and it was only bringing it down 2 degrees. So it's the parameters are very flexible, and you've got a lot of control over when you turn your compost, and how, and yeah, it's been a super fun journey for the last 4 months, seeing just having this much control and this much vision and knowledge about what's going on in there. I'm going to keep on chatting on, and I'm probably going to share another screen, but I'm not sure how to. I've got a new share. I'm going to share this. I don't think that's sharing. stop sharing. Okay, sorry guys, first time I've ever shared a screen. I'm going to share this one now. So this is who we are and where we've come from. That's our Facebook page. This is just a quick look inside of bEartha's app. Yeah, this is 1 week. This was last week. We started off over here, and all of these gray lines are turn events where I've either manually triggered it or it's triggered itself, depending on the parameters that we've put in there. You'll see on the side that the temperature isn't reaching. I think that we were set it at 50-ish over here. But what we're realizing is that some of our temperature sensors aren't in the optimum position to reach to measure the hottest points of the compost. So after manually testing it, I've calibrated it down 5 or 10 degrees here. So I'm actually triggering it at 50 to 45 degrees, but the real measurements of temperature are actually higher than this. So yeah, that's a quick show on there. There's lots of other tabs I can show you. There's a status tab and things, but I don't want to waste too much time. What else do we have? This is the compost page on our website. You've probably seen this. What makes bEartha so awesome? Well, there's heaps really. We've got a lot of points of difference, and we're really proud of that. And we've always taken into account the community angle and the soil angle, and that's really what drives us, the passion for making the most healthy soil at the end, compost at the end, and empowering community to do that. So yeah, this is where we've got to with navigating those core values, and I won't rattle off all of this. This can be found on our website, and you're welcome to check that out. There's lots more information on our web page about this stuff.